Hello everyone and welcome to another video. My name is Lance and today we're going to take a look at a feature from the Dark Souls 3 alpha that was mostly cut from the final version. And to start with, let's talk about the minor aspects of this feature that did actually make it into the game's retail release. To explain this, we're going to take manual control of the game's Ceremony database, which is a set of parameters that Dark Souls 3 uses to dynamically change the world state or time of day. Here in the Cemetery of Ash, where the game begins, we can see that we are able to switch over to another Ceremony ID to transform the area into the Untended Graves, which we would normally reach far later in the game. This same system is also used to trigger the dark sign Eclipse that appears in the sky for the game's final act, as well as the storm that rolls in at the end of Archdragon Peak. Now let's switch over to the alpha version of Dark Souls 3 to take a look at how much further this system was developed earlier in the game's life. We'll start with a look at the various times of day that once existed, but do stick around until the end because I'll be saving the best for last. Gloomy Cloudy is for the most part the same ceremony parameters that we see in the final game, so let's just move things forward a little to Evening/Dusk, which here in the Cathedral of the Deep has an entirely unique sky texture to go along with this wholly unseen lighting scenario. Similarly, the Undead Settlement also features this same time of day. Returning to the Cathedral of the Deep, we can move further forward into what is called Moonlit Night. As you can see, the sky has no texture here, but otherwise the change to the time of day is fairly dramatic. Furthermore, a similarly named ceremony parameter was also created for the Undead Settlement, and here we have a fully textured sky to go along with it. Jumping ahead to Irithyll of the Boreal Valley, the default time of day here is just called noon, which here in the alpha does look basically the same as what we see in the final game, although the sky is overall a bit darker and there's no borealis or particle effects overhead. So let's use this opportunity to move away from different time of day scenarios and focus on where the ceremony system was used to change the game world in more interesting ways. What you're seeing here is a ceremony called The Past, which causes the entire game to take on an almost grayscale look, while also applying some chromatic aberration or colour separation to the edges of the screen, just like we previously saw used heavily in Bloodborne. I like this look because it really gives the game the appearance of having been filmed using outdated camera equipment. Unlike most ceremonies, the past is one that exists for every area in the game. In the Cathedral of the Deep, the past is accompanied by a unique skybox, In Fahrenkeep, the sky is missing entirely during this ceremony. Fahrenkeep is a good place for us to segue into by far the most dramatic ceremonies that exist in the alpha, beginning here with what is called the Sun. A version of this also exists for Irithyll of the Boreal Valley. As well as Cathedral of the Deep. The sky texture is aligned quite well in order to give us some particularly dramatic scenery. Perhaps equally as striking is the Eclipsed Night ceremony, shown here once again in Fahrenkeep. This also works in Irithyll of the Boreal Valley. Now, I did say I'd be saving the best for last, and to do that we're heading to the Undead Settlement, which is the only map in the game where the Eclipse ceremony is accompanied by a sky filled with creatures that were cut from the final version of the game. And perhaps even more striking is that this same thing happens during the Sun ceremony. As you can see from a few angles, these creatures actually cast dynamic shadows across the rooftops, which is a detail I really appreciate. So it's hard to imagine how exactly the game was once planned to progress through these different world states, Would the time of day just have organically changed as you played through the game? And the more abstract ones such as the past, the sun, and the eclipse ceremonies certainly appear to be fairly climactic, which gives us a lot to think about with regard to how the game may have once been planned to end. If you have any speculation on what lore concepts we might have missed out on now that we've seen what ideas ended up being cut, I'd love to hear about that in the comments. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to let me know by hitting the like button, and definitely consider subscribing if you'd like to keep up with my work here. You can find more ways to follow and support my work in the description, and either way, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.